Over the last 24 hours, a lot developing between the United States and Venezuela as to what many are calling an act of war. Now, I'm going to share with you how things have been escalating and how we're hearing that the strike that took place yesterday is just the beginning and how Venezuela is responding to this. Let me go ahead and share with you the latest so that way you can see it for yourself. Let's take a look at the headlines coming out in the last 24 hours. Now, yesterday, Trump says the U.S. killed 11 narco-terrorists in a strike off of Venezuela. Watch, Donald Trump says a boat near Venezuela targeted by U.S. had massive amounts of drugs. Now, take a look coming out 6 hours ago today, September the 3rd, 2025. Pete Hegseth says the Venezuela mission won't stop with just this strike. Now, Maduro claims the U.S. seeks regime change through military threat amid Caribbean buildup. He is claiming that there is a threat against his nation. Maduro says Venezuela is ready to respond to U.S. military presence in the Caribbean, as we have seen the U.S. the Navy moving out there. I'm going to share with you more information on that. Maduro vows a republic in arms if U.S. forces in the Caribbean attack Venezuela. Here is the full list of U.S. Navy ships that Trump has sent to the Caribbean. I'll go ahead and share that with you as well, coming out today. And Republican, look at this, demands a $100 million bounty for Nicolas Maduro. Now, U.S. strike on Venezuela drug boat. You're going to see the footage. I'm going to share it with you. This happened yesterday. What do we know? And what is legal? Some are saying that what unfolded was not legal. Now, let me know your thoughts. They're saying that they were transporting over drugs into the United States, that this is a war against that crime on drugs that have been coming in through the United States, and Donald Trump hit them and said, we sent a message. And now we're hearing that Maduro is saying that the presence of the United States is causing Venezuela to be ready for potential attacks. They're saying they're a republic in arms. And then some are saying that this is an act of war and that this was not legal. Now, let me know your thoughts. Are you glad that Donald Trump struck down that boat that was coming in? I'm going to play for you the video footage that had drugs that was coming into the United States. If so, put 47 for support for Donald Trump and the way he's handling things. If not, put no, as some are saying that it was unlawful, this attack in international waters. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But I'm going to share with you the latest. And speaking of what Donald Trump had to say, take a look at this with me coming out here. Donald Trump says, early this morning, on my orders, U.S. military forces conducted a kinetic strike against positively identified Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of responsibility. TDA is a designated foreign terrorist organization operating under the control of Nicolas Maduro, responsible for mass murder, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and acts of violence and terror across the United States and Western Hemisphere. The strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters transporting illegal narcotics, heading to the United States. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action. No U.S. forces were harmed in the strike. Please let this serve as notice to anybody even thinking about bringing drugs into the United States of America. Beware. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So that was the words of President Donald Trump, and I'm seeing those 47s pouring in. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, I'm going to share with you the latest coming out on this video footage and articles, as we're hearing that this is not the end of those strikes against those cartels that are coming in. Venezuela getting very upset with this and saying that the United States is trying to do a regime change, trying to overthrow them. And they're saying they will be a republic in arms. And I'm going to play for you a video that came out today that literally said that they are claiming Maduro cries acts of war against Venezuela with the attacks on the cartels and the movement of these ships into the ocean by the United States. So I'm going to dive right in, get you caught up on all of this so that way you can know the latest. I'm seeing those 47s still pouring in. Now, again, do me a favor. If you appreciate these updates, I'm going to dive into the video footage, give you the articles. I'm going to cite the sources. They're hyperlinked in the description so you can see the dates, the sources, where they come from. If you appreciate that, please take a quick second, hit that thumbs up like button for me. Helps out a ton while we're live here on YouTube. Also, to stay up to date, it is totally free. Pretty much doing daily updates. In some cases, we're doing 2 updates in a day because there's so much going on. If you want to stay up to date, it's totally free. Take a second, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you're notified right away as to everything going on. Now, also, in addition to that, I wanted to mention for you guys as well that before we dive into the footage here in just a second, if you're retired today or nearing retirement and you're living in impossible math, Social Security might go up $25, but your rent, your groceries, your medicine, and your everyday essentials, they all cost more right now. And here's the reality. A lot of retirement savings are just sitting in accounts earning basically nothing. The national average savings rate is around 0.4%, and some of the big banks, they pay you as little as 0.01% to have it in savings. Now, compare that with where inflation is at today, around 2.7% year over year. That means that every dollar that is sitting in those low interest accounts is quietly losing value. That's not security. That's a slow leak of your retirement savings. You've worked 30, 40, 50 years to build a nest egg. You didn't do it to get rich quick. You did it to protect your family, live with dignity, and maybe leave something behind. But Washington politicians and Wall Street bankers are gambling with your life's work by printing money and devaluing the dollar. So here's what smart retirees are doing. They're moving part of their 401k or their IRA into gold and silver. Not new money, the savings that you already have. It's easy with Lear Capital. They can help you out. Roll over part of your paper money into something real, something tangible that has protected wealth for over 6,000 years. Gold and silver isn't just an investment, it's a peace of mind. When markets crash, gold often rises. When inflation soars, gold preserves buying power. That's why central banks and the wealthiest investors in the world own it, because it works. You see, metals don't play politics or depend on Wall Street games. They've survived every currency crash or reset in history. And here's the best part. Lear Capital specializes in helping retirees and veterans just like you. They'll walk you through the process step by step with no surprises. You earn your retirement. Don't let inflation and politicians take it away. Call Lear Capital now. You can see the number on the screen, 1-800-411-2430, or go to learram.com. The call is totally free. There's no obligation to purchase, and the protection could last a lifetime. Call 1-800-411-2430 or go to learram.com today. Thank you to Lear for making that available to my viewing audience. Appreciate that a ton. But now let's go ahead and get right to it. As I've mentioned, the headlines coming out, Donald Trump handling what is happening with Venezuela, the cartels, how they're responding, Maduro, what he is saying about we're going to be a republic in arms. And let's take a look at some video footage that just came out today as it says Venezuela's Maduro cries acts of war as Trump escalates the fight against cartels. Let's go ahead and dive right in.
Well, President Trump is cracking down. He announced a lethal strike against Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists yesterday as they were sailing to the U.S. from Venezuela with a boat full of drugs. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters that the administration will wage combat against drug cartels wherever they are. Watch this.
Will you act on Venezuelan soil against the Maduro regime?
Well, this is a counter-drug operation. We're going to take on drug cartels wherever they are and wherever they're operating against the interests of the United States. The president's top obligation is to secure the national interest and the national security of our people. I know of no president that means that more than this one. Our president now, President Trump.
So what do you know about this, Congressman? 11 narco-terrorists, alleged narco-terrorists, were killed in that strike this week. You're leading a task force to combat Mexican drug cartels, right?
That's correct. I mean, well, I lead the work on the cartel issue. Yes, whether there's a task force is another question. But look, this is President Trump doing exactly what he said he was going to do. It's a massive escalation. I'll say that. I've never seen a case where we've actually targeted a drug running boat. Usually we try to interdict them. But you know, interdiction is costly. It's expensive. It's extremely difficult. And I think this is a very welcome escalation. It's in international waters, so I find it ironic that the Maduro regime is calling this some kind of active war, while also claiming that he has nothing to do with drug running operations and the cartels. I'm sorry, but both things cannot be true at once. So remember, the charge from the Trump administration is that Maduro absolutely is in cahoots with the cartels, with Tren de Aragua. So for him to be crying foul on this is sort of him showing his hand. But it's a welcome escalation for the simple reason that it's a deterrence measure. It's one thing to be caught; it's another thing to think that if you embark on this, with a ton of cocaine in your boat, headed towards the United States, and fentanyl laced with that cocaine, perhaps poisoning Americans, you might not just get captured, but also you might have a missile on your head.
Well, I mean, the president is not backing down. He's cracking down across the board. He's also vowing to keep cracking down on crime across the country. He confirmed yesterday that he will deploy the National Guard troops to Chicago soon. He said he didn't give a date, but we're going in. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
There you have it, you guys. So, man, let me know your thoughts. And there you heard him say that he is crying out that this is an act of war. And we saw the responses, and he said, we're going to be a republic up in arms to respond to this potential threat here. So, man, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, if you are glad that Donald Trump is handling this, drop a 47 in the comments. If not, put no. Let me know your thoughts. Now, as I mentioned, the headlines coming out yesterday was that Trump, U.S. killed 11 narco-terrorists in that strike off of Venezuela. We saw all of these headlines coming out. And today, take a look here, Pete Hegseth. We're going to be hearing from him in just a second. Here is what he had to say. Venezuela mission won't stop with just this strike. So we're hearing that Venezuela is responding, saying this is an act of war. The United States saying, well, it's not stopping with this one act. There could be more to come. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth suggested in a Wednesday interview today that the U.S. strike on a drug vessel that officials said hailed from Venezuela would not be the last as U.S. assets amass off of the country's shores. Tuesday's operation marked a sharp escalation in already boiling tensions between the United States government and the regime of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. President Trump on yesterday said the deadly kinetic strike targeted positively identified Tren de Aragua's narco-terrorists, reiterating the disputed claim that Maduro controls the multinational crime organization. The U.S. operation, which officials said is targeting drug trafficking, is threaded with hopes of regime change. Axios' Marco Caputo previously reported as Maduro lives under the U.S. government's $50 million bounty. Driving the news, we have assets in the air, assets in the water, and assets on ships because this is a deadly, serious mission for us, and it won't stop with just this strike. Pete Hegseth said Wednesday morning on Fox News. So that coming out today. Anyone else trafficking in those waters who we know is a designated narco-terrorist will face the same fate, he added. Catch up quick. Trump similarly warned on Truth Social for anybody even thinking about bringing drugs into the United States to beware, as we just read that excerpt that came out on Truth Social. After alluding to the strike with few specifics in a Tuesday news conference, Trump later shared that he had ordered the U.S. military strike on terrorists who he said were transporting narcotics through international waters. Trump had ordered 7 warships and 4,500 personnel, including at least 1 attack submarine, to the waters off the Venezuelan coast. Now, zoom in, President Trump is willing to go on offense in ways that others have not been, Hegseth said on Fox News with Fox and Friends. Hegseth said that the strikes send a clear message to Tren de Aragua, which the administration was designated as a foreign terrorist organization. You want to try to traffic drugs? It's a new day. It's a different day, he added. The other side, Maduro on Monday said that his country was at maximum preparedness and that he would declare a republic in arms if the United States attacked Venezuela, according to the Associated Press's report. So again, we're hearing that they are saying this response here, that they are ready for a fight. Man, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Reading on, if Maduro is no longer in power following U.S. pressure, no one will be crying, one Trump administration official told Axios' Mark Caputo. So, wow, they're saying if there is a regime change, No one's going to be mad about it from the Trump administration. Meanwhile, another suggested this could be Noriega Part 2, referencing the U.S. military's 1989 operation to capture the Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega. Now, Nicolas Maduro, as he considers whether or not he wants to continue to be a narco-trafficker, has some decisions to make, and that's all I'll say about that, Hegseth said Wednesday. Twiggy01, thank you so much for that $10 super chat. Appreciate that a ton. And also, if you guys didn't hear the news, Trump has made no tax on tips. So if you give super chats, I don't have to pay tax on them. I appreciate that a ton. That was thank you, Donald Trump, for that, helping out the YouTubers. Reading on, it says, asked if regime change is a goal, Hegseth replied, that's a presidential decision. He added, we're prepared with every asset that the American military has. Wow. So there you have it, you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hegseth coming out and saying, we're not going to stop. We don't care what they say, Venezuela. We're not going to allow this drug trafficking to take place anymore. Now, also, in addition to that, let's take a look at this. Maduro claims the U.S. seeks a regime change through military threat amid Caribbean buildup. Now, let me know your thoughts. Do you think that we need to see a regime change in Venezuela? If so, put yes. If no, put no. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And also, if you haven't done so yet, I see we got about 2,200 people with me live. Please take a second, hit that like button. If we could get half of the room to hit the like button, it really helps while we're live. That means 1,100 likes. If you don't see it at 1,100 yet, you haven't hit it, please do so. Appreciate it a ton. Reading on, this article says, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on Monday accused the United States of seeking a regime change in his country amid a naval buildup in the Caribbean, and we're going to be discussing that naval buildup here in just a second. The military deployment was authorized by President Donald Trump in an effort to disrupt drug and cartel activity as a part of his broader border policy. However, Maduro said the buildup is an intervention in his country's affairs. They are seeking a regime change through military threat, Maduro told journalists, officials, and uniformed military brass in Caracas, echoing comments last week by his government's representative at the United Nations. Now, Venezuela is confronting the biggest threat that has been seen on our continent in the last 100 years, Maduro added. A situation like this has never been seen. Now, Maduro said Venezuela won't bow to threats and that it was super prepared. The Trump administration has accused Maduro of engaging in drug trafficking, going so far as to announce a $50 million reward for information leading to his arrest and his conviction. Now, these cartels have engaged in historic violence and terror throughout our hemisphere and around the globe. That has destabilized the economies and internal security of countries, while also flooding the United States with deadly drugs, violent criminals, and vicious gangs, Chief Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell said during an August 19th news conference. This requires a whole-of-government effort, and through coordination with regional partners, the Department of Defense will undoubtedly play an important role in meeting the president's objective to eliminate the ability of these cartels to threaten the territory, safety, and security of the United States and its people, Parnell added. As a matter of security and policy, we do not speculate on future operations. So there you have it. They are saying that this is a threat to his leadership. He is coming out and saying that they are trying to overthrow us. Now take a look. Maduro says Venezuela is ready to respond to U.S. military presence in the Caribbean. Now, this coming out yesterday says Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on Monday said that his country was at maximum preparedness and ready to respond if attacked by forces that the United States government had deployed to the Caribbean. His comments during a news conference come as the United States government this week is set to boost its Marine force in the waters off of Venezuela to combat threats from Latin American drug cartels. The U.S. has not signaled any planned land incursions by the thousands of personnel being deployed. Still, Maduro's government has responded by deploying troops along its coast and border with neighboring Colombia, as well as by urging Venezuelans to enlist in a civilian militia. So, man, they're also doing their own civilian militia as well. In the face of this maximum military pressure, we have declared maximum preparedness for the defense of Venezuela, Maduro said in the deployment, which he characterized as an extravagant, unjustifiable, immoral, and absolutely criminal and bloody threat. He said he would constitutionally declare a republic in arms if the U.S. attacked Venezuela. He did not elaborate. Wow. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As they mentioned, he is saying this is an act of war. Is Maduro saying that he is ready to go to war with the United States? If you think so, put war in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Or do you think that these are just empty threats? Let me know. Put war or no in the comments as to what he is saying here. Now, reading on, it says the U.S. Navy now has two Aegis-guided missile destroyers, the USS Gravely and the USS Jason Dunham in the Caribbean, as well as the destroyer USS Sampson and the cruiser USS Lake Erie in the waters off of Latin America. That military presence is set to expand. So I'm seeing war pouring into the comments. People are saying these are threats by Maduro against us. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some video footage as well coming out here so you can see it for yourself. This one coming out, there is going to be an interview here with Pete Hegseth, and he is going to break it down what is going on here with the United States and Venezuela. Let's go ahead and take a look.
All right, joining us now is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Pete, good morning to you, first of all.
Good morning.
Good morning. So the president
Great to see you all.
Good to see you too. Thanks for your service. The president put that video of him eviscerating, blowing up that boat coming across with all of the drugs on board. And the president said on social, on Truth Social, let them be on notice to anybody bringing drugs to the U.S. Beware. So the president is sending a message to other cartels, right?
A very clear one. I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs. Last year, under the Biden administration, all 4 years, 100,000 Americans died from drug-related from drugs, from the use of drugs, many of which poured in from Central and South America through our southwest border. Now, we're sealing the border, but President Trump is willing to go on offense in ways that others have not been, and to send that clear signal to Tren de Aragua, Cartel del Sols, and others emanating from Venezuela. We're not going to allow this kind of activity. You're poisoning our people. We've got incredible assets, and they are gathering in the region. And so you want to try to traffic drugs? It's a new day. It's a different day. And so those 11 drug traffickers are no longer with us, sending a very clear signal that this is an activity the United States is not going to tolerate in our hemisphere.
Well, Mr. Secretary, you made it very clear when we had the opportunity to visit the southern border at Fort Bliss. The Southern Command knew exactly where these folks were and that you guys were going to take them out. I guess the question is, for this operation specifically, was this a drone attack or was this hellfire from a helo?
I can't disclose precisely how this went down. I can tell you it was precision. It was very well understood exactly what assets would be used in order to achieve the effect. So that's classified how it was done. But you can see publicly a lot of the assets that we have in the region, which to include an ARG-MU, which holds 2,200 combat infantry Marines and has plenty of its own organic assets. So we've got assets in the air, assets in the water, assets on ships. Because this is a deadly serious mission for us, and it won't stop with just this strike. Anyone else trafficking in those waters who we know is a designated narco-terrorist will face the same fate. And it's important for the American people to protect our homeland and protect our hemisphere.
So their leader, Maduro, who we put a $50 million bounty on his head, has called out to China for help in this. And China's condemning the U.S. And saying, I shouldn't use the word condemn. They're warning us we should look out for the different countries' integrity. Are you worried about China and their relationship with Venezuela, and how will that affect our policy?
No, the only person that should be worried is Nicolas Maduro, who's running effectively as a kingpin of a narco state, not actually elected, and indicted for $50 million by the United States. And we know he's involved in the types of drug running that has affected the American people directly. So China and other countries are going to say certain things, and that's their prerogative. What we have there in the Caribbean is a clear demonstration of military might, President Trump has shown, whether it's the southwest border, whether it's the Houthis in freedom of navigation, whether it's Midnight Hammer in Iran, that the precise application of American power can have incredible impacts and reshape dynamics around the world and in the region. So Nicolas Maduro, as he considers whether or not he wants to continue to be a narco trafficker, has some decisions to make, and that's all I'll say about that.
Is regime change our goal there?
Well, that's a presidential decision, and we certainly understand the indictment. We understand the $50 million. Anyone would prefer that he would just give himself up, but that's a presidential level decision, and we're prepared with every asset that the American military has.
It's incredible that y'all were able to track that boat, know that there were 11 narco terrorists on board, and be able to take it out to prevent all those drugs from making into the United States and killing so many teenagers, so many 20-year-olds, whoever's doing drugs in the U.S. So thank you for that. I don't know how you did it. I'm sure you have intel that you can't talk about. But let's talk about China this morning, because while we were sleeping, China was celebrating. They're having this parade in Tiananmen Square featuring a display of advanced equipment. And they invited Putin and they invited Kim Jong-un in attendance. So what message are they trying to send, and what is the administration's response?
Well, unfortunately, the weakness of the previous administration has driven Russia and China closer together. That was a terrible development of a lack of American leadership and a lack of American strength. And you saw it around the world, and it manifests in what we saw on TV last night. But that's why President Trump has charged us at the Defense Department to be prepared.
There you have it, you guys. Wow. And let me know your thoughts. Who is more of a threat to the United States right now, Venezuela or China? As you heard them saying, the warnings that China is condemning the United States' move and saying that they are supporting Venezuela. And just today, we're seeing information coming out that China, Russia, North Korea, they are all unifying. And China has unveiled 5 new nuclear missiles that they have, and they're saying they're increasing their arsenal and their capabilities. Russia, China, North Korea, we know that behind the scenes they've been working together, but now coming out and saying, hey, celebrating in a parade their capabilities, their unification, and the release of new nuclear weapons by China. Let me know in the comments, who is more of a threat? Put China or Venezuela, or just put a V for Venezuela if that's easier. V or a C, China or Venezuela. Which one is more of a threat right now to the United States? But there you have Pete Hegseth coming out and discussing that as well. And he said that right now, this is not the last strike. The United States is ready to take it as far as we need to go. Now, we heard Maduro is calling this an act of war against him in Venezuela. And take a look so you can see it for yourself, the movement that has been unfolding. Here's an update that came out today, September the 3rd, 2025. The full list of U.S. Navy ships that Trump has sent to the Caribbean, so we can go ahead and see it. Now, we saw it mentioned in that previous article, but let's go ahead and take a look here. Now, it says, tensions in the southern Caribbean are rising as the United States strengthens its military presence near Venezuelan waters, escalating pressure on President Nicolas Maduro. U.S. naval and air assets have been deployed to combat drug trafficking and safeguard regional maritime routes, with some already used in operations this week targeting illicit shipments, signaling the potential for further confrontation with Cartels. Now, Newsweek has reached out to the U.S. State Department and Venezuela's Foreign Ministry for comments. The deployment reflects the Trump administration's assertive approach to countering drug trafficking while signaling pressure on the Venezuelan government. Late on Tuesday, U.S. forces in the region launched a missile strike that deployed a suspected drug boat linked to Venezuela, killing those on board. Destroyed a suspected drug boat. Trump said on his Truth Social platform. Now, by positioning advanced warships and long-range aircraft near Venezuelan waters, Washington is seeking to demonstrate both tactical capabilities and political resolve. In response, Venezuela is mobilizing troops and military assets, raising the prospect of a direct standoff in the southern Caribbean. Wow, Venezuela saying they are getting ready for war against the United States, ready for this standoff. Here's what to know. So here's the list for you. The U.S. has deployed at least 8 warships and 1 submarine to the Eastern Caribbean. USS Gravely, USS Jason Dunham, USS Sampson, USS Iwo Jima, USS San Antonio, USS Fort Lauderdale, USS Lake Erie, USS Minneapolis St. Paul, USS Newport News. And here you can see a U.S. Navy unit surge to the Caribbean, the locations all throughout that area. Now, the Gravely, Jason Dunham, and Samson are Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers conducting counter-narcotics patrols, maritime surveillance, and escort missions. Their advanced radar and missile systems provide both defense and offensive capabilities for the broader U.S. naval presence. So there you have it, you guys, and there's some images of some of these here. We're hearing that these are being deployed right now. They are there, ready to go in case we have a standoff, was the word used, against Venezuela. Now, let's go ahead and take a look here at what happens next. The U.S. military continues its Caribbean operations against Venezuelan-linked drug networks, while Cartels maintains defensive measures. Observers are closely monitoring the deployments to assess whether tensions escalate or a diplomatic resolution emerges, with the region's stability hanging in the balance. Let me know your thoughts. Are we going to be having war or peace? Drop it in the comments. War or peace with Venezuela? Do you think that there is going to be conflict? Or do you think that there is going to be some sort of negotiation? Venezuela does not want to go there with the United States. Let me know your thoughts, despite what they're saying, which is that they are prepared to be a republic up in arms. Now, also, we heard about a $50 million bounty. Take a look at this. Republican demands a $100 million bounty for Nicolas Maduro. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Senator Rick Scott reiterated his call for a $100 million bounty for Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro amid an escalation in tensions between Washington and Venezuela. Now, in an X post on Tuesday, the Florida Republican called for the speedy passage of his proposal legislation against Maduro on the same day as President Donald Trump announced the U.S. had carried out a strike on a drug-carrying speedboat that had departed Venezuela, killing 11 narco-terrorists. Scott had introduced the Stop Maduro Act in September of 2024, which had among its aims a push to increase the maximum reward amount from $15 million to $100 million, and we're hearing right now it's at $50 million for information leading to the arrest of the conviction of Maduro, a man whom Washington does not consider to be the South American country's legitimate leader following disputed elections. Man, do you think that we should increase that bounty? If so, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Put yes or put no. And there are some that are saying that this wasn't even legal, what has unfolded. Do you think that matters? If you think no, and you're glad to see what Donald Trump is doing, drop those 47s in the comments for support for Donald Trump's move against that boat, that cartel. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some more information. This coming out yesterday covering it. Mexican cartels lose massively after Trump cracks down on the border. Let's go ahead and take a look at this video footage.
As the Trump administration looks to crack down on the threat posed by Latin American cartels, the Navy has deployed multiple warships to the region, including 3 guided missile destroyers and 1 guided missile cruiser. Let's take a closer look at what is going in the capabilities that they have. So here's the USS Gravely, the Jason Dunham, and the Samson. Those are the Panama Canal headed to international waters off Venezuela. When you talk about this administration's push for peace through strength, this is what strength looks like. And you talk about capabilities, you can see a missile being fired off here. So the destroyer capabilities is quite impressive. It's one of the strongest we have in the arsenal. They're equipped with Tomahawk and vertical launch ASROC missiles. Those are anti-sub rocket missiles, very significant. They also can carry nuclear-tipped missiles. They're equipped with the Aegis weapon system. That's what makes these destroyers very unique. And they can reach speeds up to 30 knots, which makes them very swift and very quick and can maneuver at a moment's notice. Finally, they all carry 2 LAMPS helicopters. What's that? Those are light airborne multi-purpose systems. They're also known as Seahawks. Sikorsky Seahawks, they can maneuver in very urban areas or overseas, depending on what they need to do. There's also a nuclear-powered submarine that is following along with these. So quite a lot of power, sending quite a strong message to international waters off Venezuela, a message being heeded by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who has mobilized over 4 million militia members to try and combat this if there is some sort of incursion. Today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio heading to Latin America as he begins a trip to Mexico and Ecuador. The State Department says will center on discussions towards dismantling the cartels, halting fentanyl trafficking, and ending illegal immigration. Joining us now to discuss is security specialist and cartel expert Ed Calderon. Ed, what do you make of the ships that are being sent and how Maduro is responding to this? And do you think ultimately that Secretary Marco Rubio's trip can sort of help foster these other Latin American countries, Mexico, Ecuador, to join our fight against the cartels?
Mexico is going through a very leftist time in its policy and politics. It's going to be an uphill battle. The things that are going on with the Maduro regime have been going on for years. The first time El Chapo was arrested in the 90s was coming back from a meeting with some of the generals that run the Cartel de los Soles, which is very much at the center of some of these allegations that the United States is launching at Maduro. It's an uphill battle.
It's an uphill battle, Ed, but you point out rightfully that back in 2020, the first Trump administration indicted Maduro as the leader of the Cartel del Soles because of narco-terrorism and because of the cocaine trafficking. Do you see what we're seeing in this show of force, this strength off the international waters of Venezuela will in some way convince Maduro that it is time for him to give up his reign on that cartel and stop sending the deadly drugs into our country?
And movement is down. Obviously, some of these cartel forces and people that are moving things on that ocean are stopping. Large seizures of the kind that we haven't seen ever in Mexico. And yeah, fear on the part of the Maduro regime mobilizing 80-year-old people to basically take up arms and in defense of his kind of indefensible regime.
Yeah, and you see the numbers are just night and day from this year to last year at the border. In fact, the interim Border Patrol Sector Chief Walter Soslar of El Paso saying that they've cost the cartels some $1 billion. I don't know exactly if that can continue, but ultimately the Trump administration has taken the fight to these cartels, and they are making all of Latin America on notice that they better join in the fight because this is a fight they intend to win. I'll give you the last 20 seconds. How do you see this fight going? Can the Trump administration crack down and stop it all?
We've just seen the election of now judges in Mexico that just took power yesterday, which is a step backwards. There are clear signs that this is shifting. Cartels are being dissolved. Sinaloa cartel is basically extinct now. There's just elements of it remaining, and coyotes at the border are struggling to remain in business. Things are changing and moving towards significant changes with this administration.
Well, the Trump administration is certainly cracking dead. Ed Calderon, thank you for your insight. We're going to continue to watch that coast of Venezuela to see what.
There you have it, you guys. Wow. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But as I mentioned, we saw this unfolding yesterday, and now today we're hearing the responses coming out from the United States. You saw the interview, and we read the articles with Pete Hegseth, who said that this is just the beginning of strikes. This is not going to stop with this just one strike. We're going to go ahead and address this head on. We saw Donald Trump come out and say, anybody thinking about bringing those illegal drugs into the United States, be prepared for the same fate. Beware. And we saw that Venezuela responding, calling this an act of war, and that they're preparing for an escalation. As we're seeing those U.S. Navy ships go throughout the Caribbean in preparation to stop any of that trafficking from taking place. So things escalating quite a bit here in the last 24 hours. And as I mentioned, they're saying this is borderline act of war. Man, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And also, we're seeing that support coming from China for Venezuela. They are saying, hey, the United States, we condemn your acts on that boat. And today, China, Russia, North Korea, all coming together. We're seeing reports coming out celebrating together their unity, and China unveiling new nuclear warheads and power. They're also bragging that those warheads that they have released, those missiles, they have the capability of hitting anywhere in the globe, including the United States. So a lot going on. And again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who is the greatest threat to the United States right now? China? Venezuela? Maybe Russia? Do you think it's Iran? North Korea? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, while you drop that in, if you appreciate the updates, do me a favor, take a quick second, hit that thumbs up like button. Just helps spread this out further while we're live. Subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. Why not? And also, I'm going to be pinning down in the comments for you today's sponsor that's helping people out to invest in gold and silver, get some interest on their savings, not just having it sitting in a bank account collecting nothing. Lear Capital. So thank you guys so much for joining me. That is the latest. Stay tuned to the channel. There's going to be more updates. There's a lot going on, and I'll be sure to keep you up to speed every step of the way. But that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless.